please save my mom before he comes back. The voice cut through the silence of Dante Kim's penthouse like a blade through silk. Small, terrified, but controlled in a way that made his chest tighten. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul, the city's neon arteries pulsing below him. The phone pressed against his ear felt heavier than it should. At 1 a.m., calls meant one of two things: opportunity or death. This sounded like neither. Who is this? His voice came out flat, emotionless. Years of perfecting the art of intimidation. My name is Mia. The girl's breath hitched. Mom said if anything happened, I should call this number. She said you're the only one who could stop them. Dante's jaw clenched. He didn't do rescue missions. Didn't involve himself in civilian matters. His world operated in shadows, in calculated violence, in transactions that ended with either money or bodies. Children calling for help didn't fit the equation. Your mother has the wrong number. You're Dante Kim. Not a question. A statement delivered with unnerving certainty. You run the Jade Syndicate out of Gangnam. Your lieutenant's name is Jean Park. You prefer McAllen 25, and you never take meetings before noon. His blood went cold. How? Mom told me. She knows things about you. Things nobody else knows. Mia's voice dropped to a whisper. Please. They're coming back. I can hear them outside. Every instinct screamed at him to hang up, to pour another drink and forget this conversation ever happened. But something in the girl's voice, the way she maintained composure despite the terror bleeding through, held him hostage. Where's your mother now? She's here. She's breathing, but she won't wake up. There's blood on her face. Mia's words came faster now. 3 men came an hour ago. They wore black. They talked about an algorithm and eliminating the problem. Mom fought them, but they hit her, and she fell, and... a dress. Dante was already moving toward his private elevator, grabbing his jacket from the leather chair. Give me your address right now. Mia rattled off a location in Gangnam. 15 minutes if he drove fast. 10 if he broke every traffic law in the city. Stay on the line with me, he said, stepping into the elevator. Don't hang up. Don't open the door for anyone. Okay. A pause. Are you really coming? I'm coming. The elevator descended, and Dante caught his reflection in the polished steel doors. Dark skin, his mother's Korean features sharp in his face, eyes that had witnessed too many horrors to count. He'd built an empire on fear and precision. He'd buried former friends and lovers without hesitation. He'd earned the title of Seoul's most dangerous man through blood and calculated cruelty. So, why was his hand shaking? Mia, he said as the elevator reached the underground garage. The things your mother told you about me, did she say anything else? She said you were dangerous, that you hurt people for a living. Mia's honesty cut deeper than any accusation. But she also said that if I ever needed someone who could protect me from the monsters, you were the only monster strong enough to do it. His Maserati roared to life. The engine's purr filled the concrete space as he peeled out onto the empty street. Seoul at night belonged to people like him, predators who thrived in darkness. Your mother, he said carefully, weaving through late-night traffic. What's her name? Before Mia could answer, he heard it through the phone. The distinct sound of a door being kicked open. Splintering wood. Heavy footsteps. They're inside, Mia whispered. Hide. Right now. Under a bed, in a closet. Anywhere. Don't make a sound. The line went silent except for the rustling of movement. Dante pressed the accelerator harder. Red lights became suggestions. The Maserati's speedometer climbed past 140 kilometers per hour. His mind raced faster than the car. An algorithm. Professional hit squad. A woman who knew intimate details about his life. It didn't add up, and in his world, things that didn't add up usually meant someone was about to die. 8 years ago, a woman had vanished from his life without explanation. He'd come home to an empty apartment, her clothes gone, her scent lingering on the pillows. No note. No goodbye. Just absence where warmth had been. He'd searched for months, Used every resource at his disposal, called in favors from people who specialized in making the impossible happen. Nothing. Eventually, he'd stopped looking. Told himself she'd made a choice. That whatever they'd had wasn't worth her staying. He'd buried the pain beneath layers of violence and ambition, transformed grief into the fuel that built his empire. Now a child who knew too much was calling him for help, and Dante couldn't shake the feeling that the past 8 years were about to come crashing down around him. He took a corner too fast, tires screaming. Almost there. "Mia," he said quietly. "You still with me?" "Yes." Her voice was barely audible. "I'm in the closet. In Mom's room. I can hear them searching." "Good girl. Stay exactly where you are." Before I tell you what happened next, his mind flashed to the YouTube audience he'd never see, the millions who'd consume this story like entertainment. Subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna and comment where you're watching from. He shook the intrusive thought away. Focus. Survival first. Everything else later. The apartment building came into view, a modest mid-rise in a neighborhood that catered to young professionals. Nothing like the luxury he inhabited. He parked half a block away, killed the engine, and moved silently through the shadows. Years of operating in darkness had taught him how to become invisible, how to read a situation before entering it. 2 black SUVs sat outside the building, engines still warm. Professional vehicles. Expensive. The kind of transportation his own people used. That detail made his stomach drop. He entered through a side door, avoiding the main entrance. Took the stairs 2 at a time. The apartment was on the 7th floor. As he climbed, he drew his gun, a Glock 19 he'd carried for a decade, an extension of his hand. The hallway was empty, silent. But apartment 704's door hung open, splintered wood scattered across the corridor. Dante pressed his back against the wall, listening. Voices inside. 2 men, maybe 3. Speaking in Korean, discussing where a woman might hide important files. They were tearing the place apart. He'd killed men for less than breaking into homes. For looking at him wrong across a negotiation table. For betraying the organization. Violence was his native language, and right now it was the only vocabulary that mattered. Dante moved through the doorway like smoke. The first man never saw him coming. A bullet through the temple, suppressor turning the gunshot into a whisper. The second man turned, eyes widening, but Dante was faster. Always faster. Another shot. Clean. Efficient. The third man dove behind the couch, weapon drawn. Amateur move. Dante circled, flanked, and ended it with a bullet through the man's shoulder followed by one through his heart. No time for interrogation. No room for mercy. 3 bodies. 3 seconds. The math of his existence. "Mia," he called softly. "It's safe. You can come out." The closet door in the bedroom creaked open. A small face emerged, round cheeks, dark eyes that were impossibly familiar. She wore pink pajamas with stars on them. In her hand, she clutched a phone like a lifeline. Their eyes met, and Dante's world tilted on its axis. She had his eyes. The exact shade of dark brown that his mother had passed down to him. The same slight upturn at the corners. The same intensity that made people uncomfortable. "You came," Mia whispered. "I came." She stepped fully into the room, and that's when Dante saw the woman lying motionless near the overturned coffee table. Dark skin. Natural hair spread across the floor like a crown. Blood matted on the left side of her face from a head wound. And even unconscious, even after 8 years, he knew her. Aaliyah. The woman who'd disappeared without a trace. The woman he'd loved with a ferocity that had terrified him. The woman whose absence had carved a hole in his chest that never quite healed. "Mom said you have her eyes," Mia said, watching him stare at her mother. "I didn't believe her. But you do." Dante's hand trembled as he holstered his gun. His legs moved without conscious command, carrying him to Aaliyah's side. He checked her pulse, strong, steady. The head wound looked worse than it was. Superficial. She'd been knocked unconscious, but she'd live. His fingers brushed her cheek, and the years collapsed. Every moment they'd shared. Every laugh. Every touch. Every promise he'd thought she'd broken. Why did she leave? He asked, not expecting Mia to answer. Not sure he wanted to know. To protect you, Mia said simply. She said someone wanted you dead. That if she stayed, you'd die trying to save us.
Us.
The word detonated in his mind. Dante looked at Mia again. Really looked. 7 years old, maybe 8. Dark skin that could have come from Aaliyah. Korean features that could have come from him. That fierce intelligence in her eyes that reminded him of staring into a mirror. How old are you? His voice cracked on the question. 7. My birthday was last month. The math was simple. Brutal.
Perfect.
Mia, he said carefully, the world narrowing to this moment, this truth. Am I my father? She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that confirmed everything. Mom said I couldn't know for sure until I met you.
But yeah.
You are. We need to leave. Now. Dante's voice cut through the shock paralyzing his limbs. He had a daughter. The woman he'd loved hadn't abandoned him. She'd protected him. And now they were all in immediate danger. Mia nodded, moving toward her mother with a composure that shouldn't exist in a 7-year-old. She touched Aaliyah's shoulder gently.
Mom.
Wake up. We have to go. Aaliyah's eyes fluttered open. Unfocused at first, then sharpening with awareness. She saw Mia, relief flooding her features. Then her gaze shifted to Dante, and every emotion he'd buried for 8 years crashed across her face. Fear, regret, something that might have been love.
No.
The word fell from her lips like a prayer. Not you. Anyone but you. We don't have time for this, Dante said, already assessing her injuries. He slipped an arm under her shoulders, helping her sit up. Can you walk? Dante, you need to leave. You can't be here. You can't. 3 men are dead in your living room. More will come when they don't report back. So, unless you want your daughter to watch what happens next, you'll get on your feet and move. The harshness worked. Aaliyah's survival instincts kicked in, overriding everything else. She gripped his arm, letting him pull her upright. Her legs wobbled, but she stayed standing. Mia, pack a bag, Aaliyah said, her voice steadier now. Only essentials. 30 seconds. The girl disappeared into her room without argument. Dante supported Aaliyah's weight, acutely aware of how she fit against him, how his body remembered hers despite the years between them. 8 years, he said quietly. Not a word. Not a message. Nothing. That's why you're still alive. Aaliyah met his eyes, and he saw the truth there. She'd made a choice that had destroyed her too. I found out about the contract on your head 2 days after I took the pregnancy test. Someone in your organization wanted you dead. I couldn't figure out who, but I knew if I stayed, you'd die protecting me. So you just left. I saved your life. Her fingers dug into his arm. Don't you dare make me apologize for that. Mia returned with a small backpack, a stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. The juxtaposition, her childish toy against the backdrop of corpses and blood, made Dante's chest constrict. They moved quickly through the apartment. Dante checked the hallway, still clear. The elevator would be suicide. He led them to the stairwell, gun drawn, positioning himself between his family and any potential threat.
His family.
The words felt foreign in his mind. He'd spent years building an empire on the foundation that attachment was weakness, that caring about anything more than power and survival made you vulnerable. Yet here he was, ready to burn down the entire city to protect a woman who'd left him and a daughter he'd just learned existed. They reached the ground floor without incident. Too easy. Dante's instincts screamed warning. Wait here, he told them, pressing them into the alcove beneath the stairs. Don't move until I signal. He edged toward the side exit, scanning the parking lot through the narrow window. The 2 SUVs were still there, but now a third vehicle had joined them, a black sedan with tinted windows. As Dante watched, the sedan's doors opened. 4 men emerged, all dressed in tactical gear. Professional, organized, and wearing comm units that suggested coordination with a larger force. One of them spoke into his radio in Korean. No response from the apartment team. Moving to investigate. Dante pulled back, mind calculating angles and odds. 4 men entering the building meant 4 more outside as backup minimum. He could take them, had taken worse odds before, but not with Aaliyah injured and Mia exposed. He returned to the alcove. Back door. Through the maintenance corridor. They moved as a unit, Dante leading, Aaliyah holding Mia's hand. The maintenance corridor stank of industrial cleaner and old concrete. It emptied into a narrow alley behind the building, lined with dumpsters and service vehicles. Dante's Maserati was too far, too exposed. He spotted a delivery truck with keys hanging from the ignition, some driver's foolish mistake, his salvation. He broke the window with his elbow, ignoring the alarm that would bring security running in minutes they didn't have.
In.
Back. Now. Mia climbed in first, nimble and quick. Aaliyah followed, moving slower, one hand pressed to her head. Dante slid into the driver's seat, hot-wired the ignition with practiced efficiency. The engine coughed to life. He pulled out of the alley as the tactical team rounded the building's corner. Their shouts cut through the night. Bullets pinged off the truck's metal frame. "Get down," Dante barked. In the rearview mirror, he saw Mia pull her mother flat against the floor, her small body shielding Aaliyah's. The gesture, so instinctive, so brave, made something crack inside his carefully maintained armor. He took a sharp left, tires squealing. Seoul's streets were a maze he knew intimately. Every shortcut, every blind spot, every camera's angle. He'd spent years learning the city's secrets, and now that knowledge became their lifeline. "They're following us," Mia said from the back, her voice remarkably calm. She'd crawled to the rear window, peering through. 2 cars. Maybe 3. "Mia, get away from the window," Aaliyah said, but the girl ignored her. "They're gaining. You need to take the next right, then immediately left into the market district. The streets are too narrow for their SUVs." Dante's eyes flicked to the mirror, meeting Mia's gaze. She stared back with his own tactical mind reflected in miniature. No fear. Just analysis.
Problem solving.
He followed her instructions. The delivery truck barely fit through the market district's cramped streets, vendor stalls creating an obstacle course. Behind them, the SUVs attempted to follow, but their bulk worked against them. One scraped against a building, metal shrieking. The other was forced to stop completely. "Smart girl," Dante muttered. "She gets it from you," Aaliyah said weakly from the floor. "The strategic thinking. The ability to compartmentalize fear." "I get the humming from you," Mia added. "When you're stressed, you hum old R&B songs. Dante noticed you're doing it right now." Aaliyah stopped mid-hum, apparently unaware she'd been making the sound. Even in crisis, Dante filed the detail away. She still had the same tells, the same unconscious habits. They emerged from the market district onto a wider boulevard. Dante pushed the truck faster, heading toward the industrial sector. He had a warehouse there, one even Jean didn't know about. A backup location for when everything went wrong, which it clearly had. "Who wants you dead?" he asked, eyes on the road. "The algorithm Mia mentioned, what is it?" Aaliyah pulled herself into a sitting position, leaning against the truck's side. Blood had dried on her temple, making her look like a warrior from some ancient story. "I work for a tech security firm," she said. 6 months ago, they assigned me to develop an algorithm that could trace money laundering patterns through blockchain transactions. It was supposed to help banks identify fraud. But it did more than that. It exposed networks.
Hundreds of them.
Including yours. She looked at him with something like apology. "I didn't know at first. The data was anonymized. But when I started seeing patterns that matched what I remembered about your operations, I realized what I'd built." Dante's hands tightened on the wheel. "You built a weapon that could dismantle every major criminal organization in Asia. And Europe. And parts of South America." Aaliyah's voice dropped. "The company wanted to sell it to governments. To law enforcement. I tried to bury it, corrupt the code, anything to make it useless. But someone leaked it. Now everyone wants it, cartels, syndicates, intelligence agencies. And they're willing to kill you to get it. Or kill me to ensure no one else does." The pieces assembled in Dante's mind with horrifying clarity. Aaliyah had become the most dangerous person in the criminal underworld without meaning to. She'd created a tool that could topple empires, and now those empires were coming for her blood. If you do the same thing, Mia said suddenly, looking directly at Dante, subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna, and tell me where you're watching from. He frowned. What? Nothing. Something I heard on a video. She shrugged, but there was something knowing in her expression that made him uncomfortable, as if she understood they were characters in a story larger than themselves. The warehouse appeared ahead, 3 stories of rust and abandonment that hid reinforced walls and a security system sophisticated enough to detect a fly's approach. Dante pulled around back, into a loading dock hidden from street view.
Out.
Quickly. They moved into the warehouse's interior. Dante had furnished one corner as a living space, bed, bathroom, kitchenette. Enough to survive for weeks if necessary. He'd prepared for countless scenarios over the years, but never one that included protecting his family. Aaliyah collapsed onto the bed immediately. The adrenaline that had kept her moving was fading, replaced by exhaustion and pain. Mia sat beside her, holding her hand. You need medical attention, Dante said, grabbing a first aid kit from a cabinet. I've had worse. That's not reassuring. He sat on the bed's edge, cleaning her wound with practiced efficiency. Up close, he could see the years etched into her face, fine lines around her eyes, a scar on her chin he didn't remember. She'd lived an entire life without him.
Dante.
Aaliyah caught his wrist. The men who attacked me tonight, they had tattoos. Black serpent wrapped around a sword. His blood went cold. That's the Jade Syndicate's mark. My organization. I know. That's why I was terrified when I saw you.
She squeezed his wrist.
Someone inside your operation wants this algorithm badly enough to expose your own people. Gene. The name tasted like poison. He's been pushing for expansion into legitimate business sectors. Money laundering. Financial services. If he had your algorithm, he could eliminate competition and consolidate power. While making it look like outside forces are responsible, Aaliyah finished. Frame it as a cartel war instead of an internal coup. Mia looked between them. So the man you trust most is trying to kill you and take everything. Trust is a strong word, Dante said. But she was right. Gene had been his lieutenant for 5 years. Had proven himself ruthless, efficient, loyal.
Or so Dante had believed.
He pulled out his phone, scrolling through security feeds. His penthouse. His clubs. His main office. Everything appeared normal. But normal was often the best camouflage for betrayal. I need to know for certain, he said. I need proof before I act. While you're gathering proof, he's gathering forces. Aaliyah's eyes hardened. How long before he realizes you're not at the penthouse? How long before he connects you to me? Not long. Dante stood pacing. He's probably already reviewing security footage. Tracking my car. Building a timeline. Then we run. Tonight. As far and fast as we can. I don't run. You have a daughter now. Aaliyah's voice cracked. You have someone who needs you alive more than she needs you powerful. Running isn't weakness. It's survival. Dante looked at Mia. She stared back with his eyes, and he saw his own stubborn pride reflected there. Running would be smart. Tactical. The logical choice. But logic had never been his strength when it came to protecting what was his. Have you ever felt this? He asked no one in particular. Like your entire life was built on sand, and someone just proved it by pulling one grain free? Comment your experience, and where you're watching from. You're doing it again, Mia said. The weird talking to no one thing. He shook off the strange compulsion. We're not running. We're ending this. Dante. Your algorithm, he interrupted. Do you have a copy? Aaliyah hesitated, then nodded. Encrypted. On a drive hidden at my office. Then, that's our leverage. We get the drive. We have something to bargain with. Or something to destroy, Aaliyah countered. So this all ends. Their eyes met, and in that gaze lived 8 years of separation, a lifetime of what-ifs, and the terrifying possibility of a future neither had dared imagine. Mia broke the silence. Mom's office has biometric security. You can't get in without her. She's injured. I'm functional, Aaliyah said, standing despite the obvious pain. And she's right. We need that drive before Jean figures out where it is. Dante wanted to argue, wanted to lock them both in this warehouse and handle everything alone. But Mia was watching him with an expression that said she'd already calculated those odds and found them wanting. We go together, he said finally. We stay together. Like a family, Mia finished. The word hung in the air, fragile and terrifying. Outside, Seoul's neon lights painted the walls in shifting colors. Somewhere in this city, Jean was mobilizing forces, gathering intelligence,
Preparing to strike.
and for the first time in his career, Dante Kim wasn't sure if his ruthlessness would be enough to protect the people who'd somehow become his entire world. The office closes at midnight, but security stays until 2. Aaliyah leaned against the warehouse wall, sketching a rough floor plan on a piece of paper. Her hands were steadier now, the initial shock wearing off into something harder, more focused. How many guards? Dante asked.
3.
2 at the main entrance, 1 patrolling the floors. She marked X's on the sketch. My office is on the 14th floor, northeast corner. The biometric scanner requires a fingerprint and retinal scan. Can it be bypassed? Not without triggering alarms that alert the entire building plus local police. Aaliyah looked up. We go in clean, or we don't go in at all. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor, watching them plan with an intensity that should have been unsettling. Instead, Dante found himself grateful for it. She absorbed information like a sponge, already thinking 3 steps ahead. What about the parking garage? Mia asked. Buildings like that always have employee access through the garage, less visible than the main entrance. Dante studied his daughter. You've thought about this before. Mom works late a lot. Sometimes I come with her. Mia shrugged. I pay attention. She's a problem solver, Aaliyah said softly, something like pride and worry mixing in her voice. Sees patterns everywhere. Connects dots other people miss. Like her father. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Dante had spent 7 years not knowing Mia existed. 7 years she'd grown up without him, shaped by Aaliyah's protection and her own sharp mind. He'd missed first words, first steps, first days of school. The losses stacked up in his chest like weights. Aaliyah reached across the space separating them, her fingers brushing his. I'm sorry. For all of it. For leaving without explanation. For keeping her from you. You said someone wanted me dead. Dante didn't pull away from her touch.
Who?
I never found out. I was working part-time at one of your clubs, covering shifts while I finished my engineering degree. One night, I overheard 2 men talking in the VIP room. They were planning something. I couldn't hear everything through the door, but I heard your name. Heard them say the contract was almost ready. She paused, the memory clearly painful. I started digging.
Carefully.
Found communications, encrypted files, money transfers. Someone was paying a substantial amount to ensure you wouldn't see your next birthday. But every lead I followed went cold. Whoever it was had covered their tracks perfectly. So you ran. I found out I was pregnant the same week. Suddenly, it wasn't just about protecting you, it was about protecting her. Aaliyah's voice cracked. I knew if I stayed, you'd die fighting for us. So, I disappeared. Changed my name. Left Korea entirely for 2 years before coming back with a completely new identity. Dante processed this, the pieces of their history rearranging themselves. She hadn't betrayed him. She'd made an impossible choice with incomplete information. Part of him understood. Part of him wanted to rage at the years stolen from them. The contract, he said carefully. It never came. No one tried to kill me. Maybe they realized I'd discovered it. Maybe they decided to wait. Aaliyah met his eyes. Or maybe they're still planning, and we just haven't seen it yet. The implication settled over them like frost. Jin's current moves could be the delayed execution of a plan set in motion 8 years ago. Patient.
Strategic.
Waiting for the perfect moment to strike. We should go, Mia said, standing. The longer we wait, the more time Jin has to find us. She was right. Dante checked his weapons, the Glock, a backup knife, extra ammunition. Professional habit. Aaliyah watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You're really going to do this, she said. Fight instead of run. I'm going to protect what's mine. He holstered the gun. That's what I do. Even if it costs you everything? Dante looked at Mia, then back at Aaliyah. I already lost everything once. I'm not doing it again. They took the delivery truck, ditching it 3 blocks from Aaliyah's office building in favor of approaching on foot. The Seoul business district at 1:30 a.m. was a ghost town. Empty streets, dark windows, the occasional late-night worker hurrying home. The building loomed ahead, glass and steel reflecting the city's neon glow. Aaliyah led them to the parking garage entrance, using her employee badge to bypass the first security gate. Stay close, Dante murmured. If anything feels wrong, we abort. They descended into the garage's fluorescent-lit depths. Rows of expensive cars sat in assigned spots. The sound of their footsteps echoed off concrete walls. At the elevator bank, Aaliyah hesitated. There's a camera here. It'll log my entry. Can't be helped. Dante positioned himself to block Mia from the camera's view. Jin probably already knows you work here, if he's been tracking you. The elevator ride felt eternal. 14 floors in silence, the only sound their breathing and the mechanical hum of the ascending car. Mia held Aaliyah's hand tightly. When the doors opened, the office floor was dark except for emergency lighting. Aaliyah moved confidently through the maze of cubicles toward the corner office. Her name was etched on a placard beside the door. Dr. Aaliyah Brooks, Senior Security Engineer. Doctor? Dante said. PhD in Cybersecurity. MIT. She placed her hand on the biometric scanner. I'm not just some programmer, Dante. I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. Pride flickered through him. She'd built the life, a career, raised their daughter, all while looking over her shoulder, waiting for danger to find her. The scanner beeped. Green light. The door clicked open. Aaliyah's office was modest but organized. Dual monitors on a standing desk, bookshelves lined with technical manuals, a small couch where Mia probably napped during late-night work sessions. On one wall hung a photo of Mia at her last birthday party, grinning at the camera with cake frosting on her nose. The drive is here, Aaliyah said, moving to a filing cabinet. She pulled out a false bottom drawer, revealing a small safe.
Her fingers flew across the keypad.
That's when Dante heard it. The elevator. Ascending. We have company, he said, drawing his gun. Aaliyah froze. The guards shouldn't be checking this floor for another hour. It's not the guards. The elevator dinged. Doors opening. Footsteps in the corridor, multiple sets, moving with tactical precision. Stay here, Dante ordered. Lock the door after me.
No.
Mia grabbed his arm. We stay together, remember? Like a family. Before he could argue, the office lights blazed on. 6 men filed into the doorway, weapons drawn. And at their center, his expression almost apologetic, stood Gene Park. Boss, Gene said, his tone conversational. I was hoping you'd be smarter than this. Dante kept his gun trained on Jin's chest. How long? How long what? How long have you been planning to take everything from me? Jin's smile was thin. Since the beginning. Did you really think I'd be content playing second forever? His fingers tapped 3 times against his thigh, his tell, the nervous habit Dante had noticed years ago. You built something remarkable, Dante. But you've grown soft. Distracted by old ghosts. He gestured toward Aaliyah. This woman creates an algorithm that could revolutionize our operations, make us untouchable, and you're worried about protecting her instead of acquiring what she's built. That's weakness. That's humanity, Dante countered. Same thing. Jin's men fanned out, surrounding them. Here's what's going to happen. Dr. Brooks gives me the algorithm. You step aside. I take control of the organization. And maybe maybe, I let the three of you disappear quietly. You won't let us walk away, Aaliyah said. We're witnesses. Loose ends. See. Jean looked at Dante. She thinks like we do. Tactically. Without sentiment clouding judgment. That's why I want her algorithm, not her corpse. But I'll take either. Mia stepped forward, her small frame impossibly brave. You're making a mistake. Jean laughed. The child speaks. And what mistake is that, little one? You think you're smarter than him. Mia pointed at Dante. Everyone always thinks that right before he destroys them. Mom told me stories. Something in Jin's expression flickered, uncertainty. He looked at Dante with new wariness, realizing perhaps that he'd underestimated the situation. The algorithm is encrypted, Aaliyah said quickly. Even if you take the drive, you can't access it without the decryption key, which exists only in my head. Then I'll persuade you to share it. Jin's voice went cold. There are methods. Some quite unpleasant. Touch her and I'll kill every person you've ever cared about, Dante said quietly. Your sister in Busan. Your nephew at Seoul University. Your mother in the nursing home on Gangnam Boulevard. I'll make you watch as I erase your entire bloodline. The office went silent. Jin's face drained of color. His men shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the tone of absolute sincerity. You wouldn't. I'm a monster, Jean. You said it yourself. The only difference is I choose who deserves my monstrosity. Dante's gun never wavered. You chose to threaten my family. So now I'll show you what happens when monsters stop pretending to be men. Jin's fingers tapped 3 times. Then 3 times again. He was calculating, weighing odds, trying to find an angle that ended with him winning. Have you ever felt this? Dante said, the words seeming to come from somewhere beyond himself. Standing at the edge of everything you've built, watching it teeter. Comment your experience and where you're watching from. What? Jean frowned. Nothing. Dante shook his head, focusing. Make your choice, Jean. Walk away now or die in this office. There are 6 of us and 1 of you.
There's me, Mia said.
And Mom. That's 3. A child and an injured woman. Jin's confidence was returning. Not exactly reinforcements. You don't know my daughter. Aaliyah's voice carried steel. And you definitely don't know what I'm capable of when someone threatens her. She moved to her desk, fingers flying across the keyboard. The office's lights died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then the building's fire alarm shrieked to life. What did you do? Jean shouted over the noise. Triggered a false alarm that locks down this entire floor and alerts fire services. You have maybe 3 minutes before this place is swarming with first responders. Aaliyah grabbed Mia's hand. Your move, Jean. Jin's men looked at him for orders. The alarm continued its ear-splitting wail. Through the office windows, Dante could see lights coming on in surrounding buildings, people waking to investigate the commotion. This isn't over, Jean said, backing toward the door. You've just made yourself a target, Dante. Every asset you have, every person you care about, they're all compromised now. So are yours. Dante's smile was predatory. The difference is I'm better at this than you. Jean and his men retreated. Their footsteps echoed down the corridor, rushing toward the stairwells to avoid being caught by responding emergency services. The moment they were gone, Dante holstered his weapon and turned to Aaliyah. That was brilliant and insane. I know. She was shaking now, adrenaline fading. We need to go. When fire services realize it's false, they'll review security footage. The drive, Mia reminded them. Aaliyah quickly retrieved it from the safe, a small solid-state drive that contained the power to topple criminal empires. She slipped it into her pocket. They took the stairs, descending 14 floors as sirens wailed in the distance. By the time they emerged into the parking garage, fire trucks were pulling up to the building's entrance. The delivery truck was gone. Jin's people must have found it. Dante spotted a luxury sedan with keys in the ignition, some executives' careless habit. He broke in, hot-wired it within seconds. You're good at stealing cars, Mia observed from the back seat. Years of practice. Dante pulled out onto the empty street, heading away from the chaos. Your mother's good at causing distractions. I'm good at survival, Aaliyah corrected. Her hand found his on the gear shift. We both are. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, just a moment, the world narrowed to that simple touch. 8 years of separation. 8 years of wondering what if. And now here they were, bound together by danger and a daughter who shouldn't exist but did. Where are we going?
Mia asked.
Dante looked at Aaliyah, at their daughter, at this impossible family he'd never known he needed. Somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere we can figure out our next move. But as they drove through Seoul's neon-lit streets, Dante's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. 6 words that made his blood run cold. Jean was just the beginning. He showed Aaliyah the screen. Her face went pale. What does that mean? Mia leaned forward between the seats. It means Jean wasn't working alone, Dante said slowly. Someone above him orchestrated this. Someone who's still out there. The person who wanted you dead 8 years ago, Aaliyah whispered. And now they've revealed themselves by moving against us. Dante's jaw clenched. Which means the real war is just starting. Mia looked between her parents, and in her eyes Dante saw understanding beyond her years. She knew what was coming. They all did. The question wasn't whether they'd fight. It was whether they'd survive. What came next? They're tracking us. Dante's eyes flicked to the rear-view mirror. 3 cars back, a black SUV maintained perfect distance. Too perfect. Professional surveillance. How long? Aaliyah asked, already pulling Mia down below window level. Since we left the office building. Maybe before. He took a sharp right, testing. The SUV followed, smooth and inevitable. They want us to know they're there. Psychological warfare, Mia said from the floor. Make us panic. Make mistakes. Dante's grip tightened on the wheel. His 7-year-old daughter understood tactical intimidation. The pride he felt was complicated by the horror of why she needed to understand it at all. The warehouse is compromised, Aaliyah said. If they're tracking us, they know about it. Everything's compromised. Dante's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Going somewhere? He showed it to Aaliyah. Her face hardened. They have access to traffic cameras. Maybe even satellite surveillance. She pulled out her own phone, fingers flying across the screen. I'm disabling our device's GPS, but if they're already tracking the car, they are. Dante scanned the street ahead. They were approaching the Han River, industrial zones giving way to luxury developments. We need to ditch this vehicle and disappear. Into what? We have no safe houses, no resources. Jin's burned everything. Aaliyah's voice cracked slightly. We're running out of moves. Then we stop running. Mia lifted her head. You're going to fight them. I'm going to end this. Dante took another turn, heading toward a construction site he knew, half-finished high-rise surrounded by scaffolding and heavy machinery. One way or another. The sedan screeched into the construction site's lot. Dante killed the engine, grabbing his weapons. Behind them, the SUV pulled in, followed by 2 more vehicles. 9 men emerged, all armed, all wearing the same tactical gear he'd seen at Aaliyah's apartment. And stepping from the lead vehicle, moving with the confidence of someone who'd already won, was Jean. But he wasn't alone. The woman beside him was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a face Dante recognized from 1,000 briefings and intelligence reports. Ambassador Park Min-seo, Jin's aunt, a high-ranking government official with connections to every major power broker in Asia. No, Aaliyah breathed. She's the one who commissioned my algorithm. My company was contracted through her office. The pieces detonated in Dante's mind. Jin's aunt had positioned herself perfectly, using government resources to develop technology that would serve criminal enterprises. She'd played both sides, probably for years, building a shadow empire while maintaining a legitimate public face. Dante Kim. Ambassador Park's voice carried across the empty lot.
I've heard so much about you.
My nephew speaks of you with such complicated feelings. Dante stepped from the car, positioning himself between the armed men and his family. Ambassador. I wasn't aware we had business. We didn't. Until you became involved with Dr. Brooks. She smiled, cold and precise. Her algorithm represents a paradigm shift in financial power. Whoever controls it controls the future of global money laundering, tax evasion, and illicit fund transfers. Worth trillions, properly applied. And you want to be that whoever. I've spent 30 years building influence across 3 continents. This algorithm is the final piece. Ambassador Park gestured to her men. Give it to me now, and I'll let you walk away. You, the doctor, and your surprisingly resilient child. You tried to kill me 8 years ago, Dante said. It wasn't a question. A preemptive measure. Gene informed me his most dangerous rival was forming attachments. Love makes people unpredictable, vulnerable. I needed you focused on business, not romance. She shrugged. Dr. Brooks' vanishing solved that problem temporarily. But now she's created something far more valuable than her absence. Aaliyah emerged from the car despite Dante's warning glance. The encryption key is in my head. Kill me and you get nothing. Oh, I have no intention of killing you. I have exceptional specialists who can extract information without causing permanent damage. Ambassador Park's smile widened. It will be unpleasant, certainly, but you'll survive. Eventually. Mia climbed out last, standing beside her mother with a composure that made the armed men shift uncomfortably. There was something unnerving about a child who didn't flinch in the face of death threats. You're making the same mistake Jean did, Mia said clearly. Underestimating my father. Your father is outnumbered 9-1. He's exhausted, running on adrenaline and desperation. And most critically, Ambassador Park looked directly at Dante. He's compromised by caring about you. That makes him weak.
No.
Dante's voice cut through the night like a blade. That makes me dangerous in ways you can't comprehend. He moved. Years of training, of violence refined to an art form, compressed into seconds of lethal action. The first man went down with a bullet through his throat. The second fell before he could raise his weapon. Dante used their bodies as shields, advancing through chaos he'd orchestrated. Jin's men returned fire, but they were professionals used to structured combat. Dante was something else, a predator who'd learned to kill before he'd learned to love, and who'd rediscovered the former to protect the latter. Get to the construction elevator, he shouted to Aaliyah. She grabbed Mia, running toward the skeletal building. Bullets sparked off metal beams and concrete blocks. Dante provided covering fire, methodical and precise. Each shot counted. Each moment bought with calculation. Jean moved to intercept Aaliyah, but she surprised him. Years of running, of protecting herself and Mia, had taught her more than engineering. She swept his legs with a technique that was all street fighting and desperation. Jean stumbled, and she was past him, pulling Mia into the construction elevator's cage. Dante! Aaliyah screamed. He was already moving, vaulting over debris as the remaining men converged. 3 left, plus Jean and the ambassador. He made it to the elevator as Aaliyah hit the button. The cage lurched upward, carrying them toward the unfinished upper floors. Bullets pinged off metal below them. Jean and his aunt shouted orders, directing their men toward the stairs. The building's not finished, Aaliyah gasped as they ascended. No walls on the upper floors. Just framework and open air. I know. Dante reloaded his weapon with hands that finally showed the fatigue burning through his system. That's why we're going up. The elevator stopped at the 15th floor, as high as it went. They emerged onto a platform of concrete and exposed rebar, souls spreading below them in a tapestry of light. The night air was cold, cutting through their clothes. Now what? Mia asked. Now we use what they want against them. Dante turned to Aaliyah. The algorithm. Can you wipe it remotely? If I had network access, yes. But my phone's GPS is disabled and without. She stopped, understanding dawning. You want me to threaten to destroy it? Not threaten. Actually do it, right in front of them. Dante looked out over the city he'd dominated for years, the empire he'd built from blood and calculation. We take away their leverage. Make ourselves worthless as targets. They'll kill us anyway, Aaliyah said. Out of spite, if nothing else. Maybe. But maybe they'll realize there's nothing to gain, and let us go. He didn't believe it even as he said it, but the lie was necessary. For Mia's sake, if nothing else. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Jean emerged first, followed by Ambassador Park and her remaining men. They fanned out across the open floor, weapons trained. Nowhere left to run, Jean said, breathing hard from the climb. His fingers tapped 3 times against his thigh. Nervous despite his apparent victory. We're not running. Aaliyah held up the drive. This algorithm? It's encrypted with a self-destruct protocol. One signal from my phone, and it corrupts irreversibly. Years of work, gone in seconds. Ambassador Park's composure cracked slightly. You're bluffing. Am I? Aaliyah's thumb hovered over her phone. Let us walk away right now, or I delete everything. Your trillions disappear. Your endgame evaporates. If you destroy it, you're worthless to us. We'll kill all 3 of you. Then we die knowing you lost. Aaliyah's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Worth it, to stop someone like you. The standoff stretched, tension drawn to a breaking point. Wind whipped across the exposed floor, carrying the distant sounds of the city below. 15 stories of open air waited beneath them, concrete and death. Dante calculated angles, distances, possibilities. He could take maybe 2 of them before the others returned fire. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Mia stepped forward, placing herself between her parents and the guns. Wait, she said, her small voice somehow carrying across the space. I have a better idea. Everyone stared at her. This child who'd been too brave, too smart, too aware throughout this entire nightmare. You want the algorithm, Mia continued. Mom created it. But she's not the only one who understands it. Aaliyah's eyes went wide with horror. Mia, no. I watched her work on it for months. Sat in her office while she coded. Asked questions she thought were just curiosity. Mia looked at the ambassador. I can recreate it. Maybe not perfectly, but close enough. Given time and resources. You're 7 years old, Jean said incredulously. I'm 7, and I remember everything. Photographic memory. Mom tested me when I was 5. Mia's voice didn't waver. Let my parents go.
Keep me.
I'll build you a new algorithm. No. Aaliyah lunged forward, but Dante caught her. His heart was breaking, shattering into pieces that would never fit back together. Mia, he said quietly, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Because you die protecting us. Both of you would. And then I'd have no one. She looked at him with eyes that mirrored his own. This way, you get to live. Maybe find a way to come back for me later. But at least you live. Ambassador Park studied Mia with calculating interest. The child makes a compelling offer. She's lying, Jean said. Children can't. Can't what? Think strategically? She's been doing it all night. The ambassador smiled.
Very well.
The child stays with us. You 2 leave.
Now.
Before I change my mind. Dante's entire world collapsed to a single point of impossible choice. Save himself and Aaliyah. Abandon his daughter to monsters. Or refuse and watch them all die in the next 60 seconds. Aaliyah was sobbing against his chest. Mia stood calm and resolute, 7 years old and braver than any soldier he'd commanded. Daddy, Mia said softly. Mom needs you. Go. The word, Daddy, broke something fundamental inside him. He'd only been her father for a handful of hours. It wasn't enough. Would never be enough. But she was right. Aaliyah couldn't lose them both. I'm coming back for you, Dante said, his voice raw. I swear on everything I am. I will come back. I know. Mia smiled, and it was his smile. Fierce and unbreakable. You're Dante Kim. You don't lose. Jin's men forced them toward the elevator. Dante memorized every face, every detail, cataloging them for future reckoning. Aaliyah could barely walk, her legs giving out as grief overwhelmed her. The elevator descended. Through the metal grating, Dante watched Mia growing smaller, standing alone among predators, somehow unafraid. When they reached ground level, Jean was waiting. You have 12 hours before we disappear with her. Use them however you like. They stumbled into the night. Aaliyah collapsed on the concrete, her sobs tearing through the darkness. Dante held her, but his mind was already working, already planning. His phone buzzed. A message from a number he didn't recognize, Mia's phone. The text read, "Daddy, they're coming for us again. But this time, you come for me. I left you clues. The algorithm's backdoor. Security system vulnerabilities. Everything you need. Go get ready. Mom will help. I love you both." Dante stared at the message. His daughter, brilliant, strategic, terrifyingly brave, had planned this. Given herself up knowing he'd find a way back. She played them, he whispered. She's buying us time to prepare. Aaliyah looked up, tears streaming. What? He showed her the phone. Hope and horror warred across her features. We have maybe 6 hours before they move her, Dante said. Before they realize she's more dangerous than they thought. We gather resources. Call in every debt. Burn every bridge if we have to. And then we go to war. He helped Aaliyah to her feet, and in the dawn breaking over Seoul, they stood together. Not running, not hiding. They took our daughter. So I'm going to show them exactly why people fear my name. Aaliyah wiped her eyes, and when she looked at him, he saw the woman he'd loved 8 years ago, fierce, unbreakable, ready to burn the world down for their child. Let's go get our girl, she said. And somewhere across the city, in whatever hole they'd taken her to, Mia smiled. Because she knew something Ambassador Park and Jean didn't. Her father was a monster. And monsters protected their own.